French, my ass.
I'm only four. Bonjour, Monsieur Pussycat.
Cracking toast, right?
Start spreading the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short podcast about short films. I am your host, and we are discussing the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. Today's episode is about the 85th year of the award at the 89th Academy Awards, which celebrates the films of 2016. Today's guest is appearing for the third time. You last heard them discussing Animal Amenities and the nominees of 1990. Please welcome back Noah Pasternak. Hello, Noah.
Hello, it's good to be here, especially for this crop of films. I think like before it was sort of like the little baby stuff. I think we're getting into like the real meat of the movies now.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's like, especially just in terms of like the popularity of like the films that we see in this category. Like, of course, we have like the classic Disney stuff in the olden years, and we had like the early Willis and Crumble shorts in the 90s. But in terms of like what's really like famous today, it's like you've got like the stuff from Disney, stuff from Mixar, and then you've got our today's winner, which I don't even want to get into until we get to the actual film. But it's just like
Mm.
this
There's
is
a
a
lot
real
to unpack. Yeah.
there's a real like this is one of the most famous short films of all time, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, like this you can still feel its influence today. I
Hmm.
remember when it first came out, I just kind of you knew things were changing. It was in the air.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's just like it almost feels like this entire podcast has been leading up to this point. It's just like this is like the where animation as a whole, even that maybe not that far. Let's not it's still just a movie, but it's a pretty good movie.
I would say, like, speaking as like an animation student who's going into the industry, this is where animation like ended. Like there has been nothing of worth since these movies came out. Um, I just don't care about anything that came after. Like this was where it began and ended for me.
Definitely. But let's stop dilly-dallying. Let's just get into these movies
Right.
because I'm so excited to talk about them. Our first nominee and the year's winner is, of course, Angry Dad, the movie, directed by Bart Simpson. This is Simpson's first and only Oscar nomination and win in this category. Simpson also holds the record for youngest Oscar winner in any category at 10 years old, and
I
only
didn't know.
slightly younger than Tatum O'Neal was when she won for Paper Moon, of course, as well as being the fourth youngest nominee, surpassed only by Justin Henry, Jackie Cooper, and Quvenzhané Wallis. And keep in mind, all of those people were in acting categories, while Bart Simpson was in Best Animated Short. It's truly astounding. Angry Dad the movie is based on Simpsons web series of the same name. Simpsons was inspired to become an animator by Danger Dog creator Jeff Jenkins when he came to speak at his elementary school, espousing how great and easy the animator's life truly is. He started by drawing his own comic called Danger Dude, clearly derivative of Danger Dog, of course, but after meeting Stan Lee, he learned that he had to come up with something original. Of course, he eventually came up with the character of Angry Dad, inspired by his father, former astronaut and frontman for the B Sharps and Sadgasm, Homer Simpson. The entirety of the Angry Dad franchise is inspired by things Homer Simpson has done, though perhaps a few embellishments, and it began as a self-published comic book that Bart would hand out at his elementary school. It wasn't long until Better Than TV approached Simpson with the offer to turn Angry Dad into a web series. Almost instantly, the web series went viral, the whole world laughing at Angry Dad's various tirades. The success of the series actually took a toll on Homer Simpson, and his attempts to control his anger nearly killed him. But almost as soon as it started, Better Than TV went bankrupt, ceasing all production on Angry Dad. However, in a strange series of events, the rights for Better Than TV's cartoons all went to the company Aerochair, and for some reason, which I can't even fathom, Aerochair decided to take Angry Dad and make it into a feature film. Working with Nickel and Dime Animation, famous for their rip-offs of Mixar films, they eventually made a full-length feature. However, after a disastrous test screening, they ended up turning it into a short film instead, and the rest is history. Alongside the Oscar, the film also won the Golden Globe for Best Animated Short, a Children's Choice Award, and a Kennedy Center honor. Angry Dad the movie features a framing device of Know-It-All Sister centuries in the future having recovered DNA of the original Angry Dad and replicated his physical form, but has trouble creating his soul, his spirit. She wonders what truly makes Angry Dad so angry. Using the DNA, she's able to look into Angry Dad's past as we watch a series of Angry Dad jokes similar to the ones featured in the original web series. One last note, after Bart won the Oscar, he ended up slicing the Oscar into several small pieces to give to the entire crew of Angry Dad, which I think is just fantastic. It's rare to see someone be that selfless. Noah, what did you think of Angry Dad, the movie?
I think it's a triumph. I mean, especially when you consider all the circumstances behind it. I mean, we're talking, like you mentioned, this is the youngest winner in the category and just basically Oscars history in general. And I know there's been some rumblings about Simpson being a Nepo baby. They say his father was kind of plugged into the entertainment industry. He had met, like George Harrison, Tony Bennett, the Ramones. There's some rumors about that, but this is like grassroots success. And I think it's a very inspirational story how he started off online, just the raw materials he had to get it out there. And it wound up becoming, I've heard the original cut of this was about 4 hours roughly. And just the fact that he was able to take it that far and win so many awards. This really is like what it's all about to me. Like when I was younger, this was the movie that really did it for me. It's what kickstarted my interest in animation, and I've just been chasing that high ever since the high that Angry Dad brought me.
That that's honestly a moving story. Uh,
Thank you.
but yeah,
It
it
is.
it is honestly just so crazy to see like the difference in reactions to between the feature film, like that test screening, and the film we now have. It's like I remember reading one quote from one of the people who saw the test screening just saying like, turn it off, for God's sakes, turn it off."
It was pretty
Um,
hardcore.
yes, it was. Um, but it's like I honestly wish that we did still have that like feature length cut. Like I know we had like some reconstructed versions where we have like a hour long edit, which of course it just pales in comparison to this nice tight like 15-minute short that we have. But it's like I'm still just curious, just like how much went wrong during that, and just like how was Simpson just able to create this. Like, of course, like even as he mentions in the speech, it's like it's not just about him. It's about the whole creative team on Angry Dad that was able to make the masterpiece that we do have. But there is very clear an auteur vision from Simpson in here, at least in my opinion. That's what I see in it.
The original cut of the movie is for sure one of the great pieces of lost media. I know Simpson supposedly destroyed the original cut. He has sort of a flair for destroying things. There's rumors about his sister's Malibu Stacy dolls meeting a similar fate, but I think that was with all due respect to one of the greats of this era. We are lucky to still have people like him and Scorsese and I mean,
Ridley
basically
Scott,
just those two still with us, but I do think it was a bit short-sighted of him to destroy that cut.
uh, you know, if it if he felt it needed to be done, I agree with his judgment. And but let's get into the meat of this film here because first thing that I really noticed is that I think Don Hertzfeldt ripped fucking Simpson off because like this plot description or this movie just seems so similar to World of Tomorrow, or that it just feels like Don Hertzfeldt like saw this and was just like, I gotta get on this quick, or before Simpson takes the fucking spotlight. Right? And it's just like, and I know people fucking love World of Tomorrow, but it is just so hackneyed. It's just like Don Hertzfeldt, like similarly, Don Hertzfeldt had an early hit on the internet with Rejected. And it's like an angry dad took some of that success away from him, and he's been bitter ever since. It's just so fucking pathetic, really. He and it's just I think Angry Dad does format so much better. It's like I've always loved the character of Know-It-All Sister, or in the original web series. And then to see her like this in this far future as he is like this probing scientist now. It's like it's a very interesting twist on the character that I really love, and just seeing And then as we go into the mind of Angry Dad and see like what truly makes him angry, it's like, and while these scenes are still funny, they still carry the charm of the original web series. It's like there is something so just so potent about it. How like it really speaks to the anger that resides in us all. Like even if it's just a little part of it, it brings it out in just full force. And it's like, yeah, I am fucking angry. I am fucking angry, Dad. Uh, not literally, of course, though I wish. Um,
No, no, there are stories, but
but God, it's it's a masterpiece of animation, truly.
and I mean, yeah, it does. You're fully right. It does take like the original charm and energy of the web shorts, but you can tell Simpson is playing with like ergonomic chair money now. He can step up the scope. And I think you're right about Hertzfeld. I also think Spielberg a couple years back, I don't know if too many people saw it, but there was the movie called like The Fablesons or some shit like that. You can tell like the Angry Dad influence on that too, where it's this other guy like looking back to his childhood and he's trying to sort of figure out like how what was going on with his parents and how that influenced his filmmaking. And I mean, look, I don't know what else this Spielberg guy is like up to. Maybe he's a good filmmaker. I don't know, but I thought it was he's just like very. I guess the whole thing is, you can tell who most filmmakers were influenced by, but I think he's just trying to get into Simpsons lane, and he just needs to fucking stay out of there. It's a joke.
Yeah, it's just like, and there's a clear difference in that. Like Simpson is still living that experience. Like this is real to him in the moment. It's like films like The Fablemans, as it's called, and things like even like A and a Half or fucking Alexander. It's like these are made decades after. It's like you can tell that these filmmakers are not living that anymore. Like this is an old man thinking like trying to remember what childhood was like and failing miserably. Meanwhile, there's something just so raw about what Simpson brings to these films, and it is just truly astounding.
Yeah, you can tell, like, I don't think, not to psychoanalyze too much, it's not my place, but it does feel like Simpson has been living this life as a 10-year-old with this family for like many, many years. That's the sense you get watching Angry Dad.
Yeah, he's such just an old soul, and it's like I guess maybe that's why he just felt so comfortable taking the reins of an animated feature while still being in fourth grade. It's just like it's true. Like I wish I could have been Bart Simpson. I think we all wish that we could have been Bart Simpson at his age, but only Bart Simpson could have been Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is like quite intense to think about, but he does have that sort of laissez-faire attitude. It's you can tell he's very comfortable, like you said, sliding into the role. I don't get the impression that he has much of a cow about it, but it's just, I mean, when you step back, you can pick it apart as much as you want, but I just think it's a fucking mind-blowing picture. Like this, we're never getting anything like that again, and I don't think we had anything like that before. It's very like a clear line in the sand moment for film history.
Now I want to get more into like the little details of the film. Let's start with you. Were there any scenes that you think that really stood out to you in terms of the film?
I mean, it's funny because you watch these movies over and over and over again, and you're still like years after they came out, you're picking up on little things you didn't notice the first time. Like when Angry Dad drank out of that dam, I didn't even catch this until like I want to say my sixth or seventh rewatch, but he says like that was damn good, and I didn't even realize like it's a pun. He's commenting on what's happening right there, but they don't shove it down your throat. Like they trust the audience. They don't hold your hand and walk you through it. They trust you to pick it up. And I think that sense of like respecting the audience's intelligence, that's very a lot of other filmmakers could stand to learn that lesson. And I think that scene right there, that just kind of encapsulates the magic of this movie and that the level it's on that other people just need to put in the work and catch up to.
I, I don't want to brag, but I noticed that my first watch.
Okay,
Uh, I'm sorry, but
that's
for
fine.
me, it's like I'm much more of an emotional filmmaker. Like still, like while the jokes do make me laugh, it's just like I really appreciate the more tender emotional beats. It's like especially like the ending of the film. It's like I imagine everyone who's listening to this has watched Angry Dad the movie like a million times.
It's
So
like Star Wars. Everyone's seen it.
exactly, but it's just like the ending where Angry Dad like when Know-It-All Sister finally is able to emulate him and bring him back to life finally. He gets up out of the chair and just hugs her for the one moment that he's ever shown any kind of sentimentality or anything.
He's a happy dad now.
I'm already crying just thinking about it.
Well, some people they pick up on puns the first time around, but they can also be like very overly emotional. It's not my place to judge.
You know who else is overly emotional?
Who?
Angry Dad.
That's true. That's true. You pick up on that a lot throughout like the filmography.
Hmm. God, it it's sometimes just hard to really say more about such a such a film that has established its place so firmly in pop culture because like there's so many like essays about this, so many like not critiques because everybody loves this movie, but just like analyses of this movie. It's just like it's hard to say anything new or original about it, but it's just one of the greats, you know? It's so hard not to love this.
It is, and yeah, much volumes upon volumes have been written about this. I remember the Criterion came with a booklet that had like it was an entire essay by another entertainer from Springfield, Sideshow Mel. It was pretty interesting stuff, but I do think at the end of the day, it is just an emotional experience. You need to just not try to analyze why it works. It just simply works. It simply is. You just need to sit back and take it all in. Many young filmmakers come to me for advice. They get on their hands and knees like the pathetic little pigs they are, and they tell me, Noah Pasternak, how do I make a film? I don't know what to do. I'm so fucking stupid. What do I do? I tell them, you have to watch Angry Dad.
And that's all there is to say. I think that's a good
Yeah.
place for us to move on. And it's just like if we wanted to, we could just keep talking about this. But I
Oh,
think
yeah,
we
I could
we
go on.
we need to like cut it a bit short just so we can get to these other lesser films.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, let's move on to our second nominee, which is Better Gnomes and Gardens, directed by Nick Park. This is Park's sixth nomination in this category, the fifth for Willis and Crumble, being the final nomination for both of them, and the seventh for Nardman Animations, which still has one more nomination left, that being for their Netflix short film, Pigeon Pigeon. Uh, all parties involved were last nominated for the Willis and Crumble short, The Loaf and Death of Colonel Blimp, regarded by most as the worst Willis and Crumble film, included in including their Oscar-winning feature, The Great Vegetable Plot. Some animation fans have criticized Nardman for their lack of focus on short films in recent years and lack of dedication to making their signature claymation films. While the film Retropolis has its fans, the usage of CG animation was disappointing to longtime fans of the studio. To try and appease their fans, Nardman announced two films it had in production, one CGI, Arthur Kwanzaa, and one stop motion, The Scientist in an Adventure with Pirates. This did nothing to help matters. The angry mobs grew, and one fateful day, Nardman Studios was unfortunately bombed. This ironically meant that the studio only had the resources to make a short film. You heard it here first. Terrorism works. Better Gnomes and Gardens is about Willis and Crumble and their next of their many jobs, becoming garden gnome sellers and repairers. On the job, Willis meets Miss Pennyfarthing and becomes quite attached, eventually moving in with her. Crumble does not approve, and his suspicions become worse when he finds a secret notebook detailing the recent murders of several other gnome salesmen. But it turns out it wasn't Miss Pennyfarthing, but rather her pet parrot who had been committing the murders. Will Crumble be able to stop it, or will Willis be no more? So, in terms of just the Willis and Crumble canon, I think this is a step up from Loaf and Death of Colonel Blimp. Um, but it's not nearly the level of the original trilogy. Like those films are just in their own level in terms of animation. Of course, later surpassed by Angry Dad. But it's like this one, it's a step in the right direction, but it's just so derivative of the earlier films, I think, and it's just like you can tell that just like Nick Park isn't really in invested in these films anymore. Like even though he's become like more clay than man at this point, it's just like his heart isn't in it anymore. Or you could tell that he just lost the heart for it. It's just like we know that like his early films, it's just like his first film. It came out while he was in like he while he was finishing up college. It's like he made it while he was in college, his thesis film, and it's just like you could tell this was something new and fresh and exciting for him. But at this point, he's just lost it all, and it's just I almost feel bad for him, except I don't because he pisses me off sometimes. But yeah, it's just a bit disappointing, even though I do kind of like it. What about you?
Well, I agree. I think terrorism does work.
Yes.
As for the movie, it's a step above the previous few entries, but you know, at the end of the day, this isn't what Park or Nardman is going to be remembered for. It feels like certainly a filler entry, like the Oscars just kind of had to meet their quota for nominees. I do agree. It seems like the passion's been waning a bit. I've heard they're running out of clay there. I don't know how true that is, but that could have something to do with the rather dire state of Nardman's recent output. But I don't know. If you have a family, this would be a good movie to watch. It did get overshadowed by what it was up against, I think. So maybe someday I ought to revisit this movie and sort of, with an open mind, get it out of the looming shadow of Angry Dad and Simpson. But it's perfectly serviceable.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it does also seem like that they've been trying to more and more like cater to a family audience. And it's like in the first film, like Willis and Crumble were meant to be lovers. Like that was the implication there. And it's just like, which is controversial, but it's just like it's interesting at least. But now it's
They're
just
British. They do things differently over there, and I think we need to get over these cultural barriers and start to understand like the Queen and Prince Philip were like cousins or brothers or something. Like it's just a different society. I don't think we ought to penalize them for that.
exactly. And it's like the love was there, but it's just like at this point, it just seems like your generic man and his dog story. It's just like there's no like it's just it, it's pathetic. It's just like they're so afraid of doing something interesting at this point. Like, and it's just disappointing. And it's just like even in their third film, like or actually the second one, The Wrong Shirt, it's just like at that point it's like you can tell that there's a bit of a rift between them. It's just like he keeps getting Crumble the wrong Christmas presents, and just it drives him insane that he starts falling in love with a pigeon even. And it's just like these are the stories that I love. This is why Willis and Crumble are a household name, especially in the UK. Hey, but now it's just like what happened? These are not the characters I know.
It does feel like a bastardization. I think by this point in the timeline, it's basically like a knockoff Mixar fare. Like this might as well have been done by nickel and dime. You can tell they're playing to the family crowd, and that might bring in the money, that might bring in the nominations, that might bring in the fame, the success, the glory, the women, the drugs, more money, private planes. But at the end of the day, what are you getting out of it?
Nothing.
Yeah,
Simple as that. Nothing.
no, it's shit. I'm not afraid to say it.
Hmm. Absolutely. God, what even is there to say about this? Like, I can't even really remember a scene from this. I did like the one scene, like the scene that they showed at the Oscars. Of course, it's the scene where it's like Crumble gets transformed into a gnome. It's just like I like that, but it's just like everything else about it. It just seemed it almost feels like they just reused animation from the other films, like just to cut costs because of course, the terrorist attack they had to cut corners a bit, but that's no excuse. Just just make something fucking good for once. Jesus Christ.
Bart Simpson is a 10-year-old boy who is able to put out an entire internet series basically by himself, no reused footage. So I don't give a shit if you've been attacked by terrorists. I don't give a shit if you're British or whatever disabilities you have. There's no excuse for using that much reused footage.
Mhm. It reminds me of that one line in Ben Stiller's Metal Man, and where he's just like, where I think it was Tony Scott in no, not Tony Scott, that's the director. Tony Todd in the villain role, where he's just like he built us in a cave with a box of scraps. It's like that's hit Bart Simpson, and it's just like, and then the, it's just like this is so stupid. This short is just so fucking stupid.
No,
God,
I hate it.
I like the more I think, like
It
I
pisses
keep
me
saying
off.
this is not that bad, but at the same time, it's just it could be so much better.
I'd rather watch something bad. Like it would at least provoke me. I'm more offended by how nothing this short is.
Uh, oh, if you want to talk about nothing, let's get to this next nominee then. Unless you have something more you like to say.
I have nothing to say to Willis and Crumble.
All right. God, what a fucking disappointment. But our third nominee is The Brothers of Beauville, directed by Sylvian Chomet. This is Chomet's second nomination in this category after The Old Lady and the Robins. Since we last saw him, Chomet made a feature film called The Sextuplets of Strasbourg about six elderly sisters who used to perform in revues at the Folies Bergère and wished to revive their act but fail. The film was a massive success, but it only helped fuel Chomet's ego. He started insisting people refer to him as Le Grand Chomet and kiss his hand when greeting him. This culminated in tragedy when Chomet pushed an American tourist off the Eiffel Tower for blocking his view. He faced no charges and was even awarded an honorary César award for the action, but it led to Chomet to go back to his short animation roots. Thus leads us to The Brothers of Beauville. Turns out that Chomet didn't really have any more original ideas left, so The Brothers of Beauville is really just deleted scenes from Sextuplets of Strasbourg cobbled together into something resembling a news story. It you can tell he was inspired by Bart Simpson. Like he heard about what was going on with Angry Dad and just decided to do the same thing. It's really obvious. But anyway, in the film, the three brothers, Benoit, Baptiste, and Bruno, sit in their home with their dog Balthazar. And that's pretty much it. Noah, what did you think of The Brothers of Beauville?
It definitely is a film that is better suited to be viewed within the context of its era and what was going on. And it was, although he wasn't arrested for his murder, it was definitely a very tense time for him. And I think a lot of that was on his mind when he was making the movie. I don't. I respect its influence more than I respect the film itself. It definitely is one of the great sitting films, but unless you're into French cinema, French New Wave, I'm not sure how much you're going to get out of this. It's more, you have to respect what it did rather than what it is.
This film is everything I fucking hate about the French and their fucking movies. This shit is so fucking boring. It is 30 minutes of these guys just sitting in their fucking house. The only scene where anything fucking happens is the scene that they show at the Oscars, of course, where they finally get the fucking cheese, get the fucking grapes, get the fucking toothpicks, and just store it up their fucking noses. And it's just like the dog finally gets up and licks up the blood and everything. And that's it. The film ends after that. And it's just so mind-numbing. And it's like, who allowed this? I know that Chaumet, he was like this big fucking deal, but I'm saying it. He's fucking useless. He's a fucking terrible director. He should not be allowed anywhere near a fucking animation studio or anywhere near cinema. He should be banned from watching fucking movies. That's how much I hate this film and hate him and hate the fucking French. Kill yourself.
It's a slow burn. It's I think of the marshmallow test where, little babies are told they can have one marshmallow now, or if they wait 10 minutes, they can have two marshmallows. So maybe little babies would have a harder time with this film, but I personally think if you're willing to pack your patience and put in the hours, you get a perfectly mediocre movie, and sometimes that's enough.
Oh, fuck you. You call this a slow burn. It's
You
more like
wish you could fuck me.
a slow stream of burning piss out of my urethra. And it's just like
And many French people pay good money for the privilege of burning their urethra. So again, I think this does come down to the cultural context. Like, if you are a child in France and you've just had a bowl of tar for dinner with some cigarettes because you're a good little petit boy for your mama and papa, th this could be revolutionary for you. This could be the sort of thing that makes you want to pick up a camera and jam
I
it down your urethra.
I wish they would never pick up a fucking camera. It'd save us all the misery.
Well,
I'll say one thing. I like the dog. I think the dog's cute.
dog is great.
I think the movie should have just been the dog of Beauville.
The dog was definitely their concession to the American audiences. You needed a character for like the merch department to latch onto, and for once, I think that was a case where executive meddling turned out for the better.
Mhm,
The dog does make a lot of the movie.
mhm. And it was kind of strange seeing like how the dog kind of became like a like white moms would just like post a dog and then like some completely unrelated caption next to it. It's just like me when I hit a child in my Honda Civic. It's just like,
Well,
why is
that's
the dog
that's
there?
illegal. So who's posting that?
I won't name names.
Who was it?
Might have been me, but just
Oh,
no one listens to this podcast. I won't get
okay.
evicted.
All right. Yeah, I guess that's fair. I remember on the last episode I read my social insurance number, and so far, nothing. So
Oh, glad you didn't notice. Okay, great.
yeah.
But yeah, Brothers of Beauville, fucking hate it. I kind of want to move on, but I feel like you have more to say on it. Unless you don't, then we don't have to talk about it
Brothers
anymore.
of Beauville. I mean, I know he's been working on his next film for a long time now. I think this is really where he peaked, though, for better or for worse. I think, not to be disrespectful, but I think he should pack up, pack it in, throw in the towel, kill himself, go to hell. I don't mean any disrespect when I say that, but just it is how I feel, though, and I'm not gonna tone it down for the sake of, the little iPad kids who
I mean, that
accidentally
is
found
just
this
kind of
on
the French
Spotify.
dream. Kill yourself and go to hell. It's the best they can
Yeah,
hope for in life.
I mean, hell is still a step up from France, so
Exactly.
I wish him the best. I really do.
Let's go on to our fourth nominee then, which is Condiments, directed by Michael Martin. This is Martin's first and only nomination in this category, but the 12th for Mixar. Michael Martin graduated from Cal Arts with a degree in animation, with his thesis film Dust, about a dust bunny who wants to be a real bunny, catching the attention of John Lasseter. He loved Martin's clear potential and immediately hired him as a crowd animator, with Martin's most well-known work being animating the crowds in the big javelin scene in Mixar's Oscar-winning feature Courageous. But when it came time to find a short to put behind their next feature, sorry, Outside In, Martin came up with an ingenious idea. What if they took condiments and brought them to life? This gave John Lasseter a heart attack, requiring a triple bypass surgery. He very nearly died, and perhaps he should have, but regardless, Condiments went forward in production. Beyond this, Martin ended up leaving Mixar the second he got the Oscar nomination, assuming he was going to win, but when he lost, he tried desperately to get his job back to no avail. Since then, Martin has had three films greenlit by Netflix, but seemingly none of them actually went into production. Going back to Condiments, the short was meant to really push the boundaries of Mixar's animation prowess because they've never animated condiments before. They spent weeks pouring ketchup, mustard, peanut butter, syrup, and more all over the Mixar offices just so they could understand how the material moved and spread. The offices smelled like rotting food for weeks, but it was worth it. As for the story, Martin was inspired by his childhood, as his parents wouldn't let him have any real toys, calling them the devil's playthings. Instead, Martin played around with anything he could find in the cabinets in the kitchen. Overall, Michael Martin really seems like a depressing figure. In Condiments, the kitchen becomes a western town as famed outlaws the Tabasco brothers are back and here for blood, or rather, ketchup, Sheriff Ketchup, that is. Long ago, ketchup emptied the Tabasco brothers' bottles, but after the humans decided to make some homemade hot sauce, they've come back to life. The other condiments seek to protect their beloved sheriff, but the bells toll for us all. So I thought this was actually a really good direction for Mixar. Like usually their shorts do they kind of go for the better homes and better gnomes and gardens direction, and where it's just like, oh, they just want to please the family audience. But I really appreciated how fucking gritty this one was. Like the Outside In got rated PG-13 just because of this short film airing before it. Because it, even though it's all like it's just bottles, it gets grisly. Like these fucking death scenes of all these condiments, one by one, is so fucking horrific. But I really appreciate the direction, the chance that they went with this. It's just so fucking beautiful in a way, in like a really gross way, but beautiful regardless. What about you?
Condiments is a labor of love. You can tell, like, this came right from the heart for Martin, and it definitely, there's Bambi's mom, there's Dumbo's mom, there's a couple other moms. They generally die, but like the scene with Frenchie's death, especially, that's one of those like childhood watershed moments where it's your first dose of reality as a kid. You're seeing like a truly disturbing scene. And, Jim Henson said he thought it was a good idea for kids to be scared sometimes while watching family entertainment, which is why he made like The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. And,
Mhm.
and I think Condiments is sort of the natural extension of that mentality. It's like, come on, little kid. It's time to man up. It's time to get some hair on your chest. It's time to get circumcised. This is the real world.
Like
And
the
they're
kosher
showing it to
pickles.
them through condiments.
Yeah, it's just like I remember watching this. Like I think I was in high school at the time, maybe younger, or but I remember this one even sticking with me at the time. I'm like it I think I even had a few nightmares about it. Just because it's like I was imagining myself as a jar of honey. Yeah, just the Tabasco brothers came for me. It, it yeah, but anyway, I'm better now. I I had some therapy. We got over it, but I think I'm better for it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, this isn't, I mean, Mixar is nowadays owned by its parent company, Roger Myers Senior Studios, and they obviously have a bit of a history with disturbing condiment scenes. I remember in the 50s, they had the short where the beloved British bear, Timmy the Dump, eats too much honey and he gets his ass stuck in the rabbit hole. So it feels like a natural fit, but they're definitely not afraid to go there with condiments and, make you ask what if and make you like reconsider the way you're approaching them. And that is one of the reasons I respect the Over and especially this movie. I feel like this is where it was all leading up to. This is probably their best work. I think they might have peaked here.
Oh, definitely. Like I do enjoy a lot of their, their some of their standard fare. They're like the For the Dog short that they made in early 2000s or Gerald's Game based on the Stephen King story. It's just they do have a lot of really good short, but I do this one really just stands out as being so different, but it's still so great, still up to their usual standards that I do just really I'm really glad that they made this film. And I'm really glad that Michael Martin and got the funding for it and just like but it's a shame that he's never been able to make another one. Like I didn't mention this in the dialogue, but I think he even like killed one of the Pixar staffers. Like
He's
when
definitely he's turned into one of the great urban legends of the entertainment industry. I mean, he's sort of a recluse, I understand now,
yeah, it's
along the
kind of like a
likes of
DB Cooper figure,
yeah, like John Swartzwelder too. Um,
of
I
course.
don't really know what he's up to, but I do think this was like his artistic zenith. He was firing on all cylinders here. Mixar was firing on all cylinders here. It didn't. It's a shame in many ways this came out the same year as Angry Dad because I think any other year this would have taken the gold home.
But Mixer has enough wins as is. Like
Yeah,
they
no, I mean they were comfortable.
yeah. But I think the loss really took a toll on Martin. It's just like I almost feel bad for him. I don't really because of course Bart Simpson really deserved it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
no.
he's a much more gracious winner than Michael Martin would have been.
We're not going
It,
to give out participation trophies here. I mean, let's be real. He didn't deserve it this time around, but it's still a bit sad.
exactly. Like as Martin Scorsese says, you can't give everyone an Oscar.
Yeah,
But still, Condiments, great short, still breaks me a little every time I watch it.
very powerful.
Speaking of powerful, let's go on to our fifth and final nominee, which is Saakashvili Spring, directed by Salome Garibashvili. Right? Sorry, I'm butchering the name. Garibash Garibashvili. There it is. This is Garibashvili's first and only Oscar nomination. She was born in what is now Georgia, but formerly the Soviet Union. She's actually the great grandniece of Joseph Stalin, who was also Georgian, and because of
Who's
this,
that?
Hmm?
Sorry, great grandniece of who?
Joseph Stalin.
Oh, is he like another director?
No, he was the former leader of the Soviet Union.
Oh, when was this? Like the 90s or?
Uh, must have been the 1920s to the 1950s, I think.
Oh, so like before our time. I'll look into it at some point, but
Yeah, go read a book sometime. You'll enjoy it.
hmm.
Uh, anyway, Joseph Stalin, also Georgian, and because of this, her family lived well during his reign, while being personally persecuted by Nikita Khrushchev, who came by their house every day to throw eggs. Salome was born near the end of the Soviet Union, and she says her first memory was going to a Pizza Hut for the first time and being disappointed. She went to Bilsili. I'm really butchering these names. I'm sorry. To Bilsili State Academy of the Arts and graduated with a degree in fine arts. Her thesis film, The Man Who Threw Eggs, garnered international acclaim, even winning the short film Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. Uh, this was Garibashvili's very next film, which she made entirely by herself over 7 years. And sadly, Garibashvili would never make another film, as she disappeared the day after attending the Academy Awards, never to be seen again.
Hmm.
Saakashvili Spring is set during the Rose Revolution in Georgia. Though the conflict was entirely peaceful, the short itself depicts the conflict as if it were a military campaign. It's essentially a moving political cartoon, with the girl representing Edouard Chevan Chevrandis and the tanks representing Mikheli Saakashvili and the citizens of Georgia. Bizarrely, the film takes side of Shevardnadze, who was forced to resign after rigging the presidential elections. The actual plot of the film, however, depicts a bunch of tanks rolling around the city, destroying everything in their path, including incredibly graphic scenes of murder. However, as one tank approaches a little girl, it decides it can't kill her. It instead shoots a water tower, which allows a dead flower to grow. The little girl places the flower into the tank's cannon, which it then shoots into a butterfly, destroying it. The little girl eats a part of the butterfly and dies. The tank cries and never moves from that spot. The film then cuts to the future as children play on the old tank, having rebuilt their city. In a shocking ending, there's an explosion, killing the children, and the film ends with an intermission title card. It's all very confusing. Noah, what did you think of our final nominee?
Well, going into this, I wasn't aware of all the context behind this, I have to admit. I didn't know about what was his name, Joey Stalins or whatever, so I'll have to read into all of that. But I did sort of take it as an anti-war piece, which I thought was very powerful because I felt it was about time someone made a movie that came out as anti-war. And it's a pretty bold position to take, but I was glad somebody finally said it. And the ending, the twist ending, it shows you the cost of these things. That people, it's very real. People can die, people can get hurt, and it was high time a movie asked questions like that and made you confront those realities. So it might be like a little festering piece of shit compared to Angry Dad, but I do think it was a very thought-provoking piece of art.
Are you fucking stupid? Like,
Yes.
genuinely, like, this isn't an anti-war film. It's an anti protest movie. It's anti-free speech. It's like I did the fucking research here. And this fucking movie, it just takes what is in real life a peaceful protest and fucking distorts it into, oh, the people, they fucking hate me. Me, 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 me. Yeah, and it's just like he portrays like this film, like, she portrays the fucking illegitimate leader of this country as if who was a little girl who's just so defenseless blah, 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 against the will of the fucking people. Well, and it's just like, and then her dying is like how he was ousted out of power again for rigging elections, and then the quote unquote peaceful future or whatever is meant to represent like Georgia of today, or at least when this film came out or when she started production. I don't know. Oh, and then the explosion is like, oh, this was all a big mistake. Blah, 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 blah. It's just like, it's so fucking hack. It's so fucking shitty. Yeah, it's just like, well, yes, animation's good. And it's just like on the surface level, on the fucking baby ass level, it's nice. It's good. It's a simple story, whatever. But if you actually give a shit about movies having a plot or themes or anything for your heart or anything, it's so terrible. The more you just read about this fucking movie.
Well, that's just the thing. There is no such thing as a peaceful protest because think about it. You go back to the 1950s. Every Who down in Whoville, they're claiming to have a peaceful Christmas celebration, but what are they really doing? They're going out into the town square right under the Grinch's fucking mountain and they're singing songs every day. And what does this do? This drives him to insanity basically, a perfectly rational man who's trying to mind his own business and he has no choice upon hearing all these so-called peaceful protests in favor of Christmas, he has no choice but to put on a Santa Claus costume, beat the shit out of his dog, go down into Whoville, and steal Christmas. And what's furthermore, that's just the original version of the story, as well as the Chuck Jones one. But when you get to 1999, in comes Ron Howard and the Grinch, and we find out what the Who's are really like. They've actually been treated. Not only do they come down under the Grinch's house, his little Grinch hole in the cave every day, and sing Christmas songs just to bother him. They've also been bullying him since he was this little horrible goblin child. And no wonder he comes and steals fucking Christmas.
Oh, the fucking Grinch cells seething over the Who chads. How predictable.
Think he made a lot of points. I know it's not woke or politically correct or hunky dory or whatever the Zoomers are saying nowadays to
He
bring
probably
that up.
saw
But
Ebenezer Scrooge too.
well, no, no. I don't like the hat that he wore when he went to bed. I don't think you need a hat to go to bed. I feel like that would interrupt my sleep, if anything. I get the robe and I get the slippers and I even get because this takes place in like the year Jesus was born or some shit and they didn't have electricity, so he needs his little candlestick so he can go, who goes there? But I draw the line at the hat.
God, you seriously you're picking the wrong fucking Jim Carrey Christmas movie here. It's like the Christmas Carol is the cinematic masterpiece. Fucking How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That's dog shit.
I'm not talking the Jim Carrey Christmas because okay, we're grown-ups here. We don't have to we're talking about the Muppets Christmas. He's a
Jim
cranky
Carrey's
old man
better.
and he wears a fucking
Easy.
hat to bed.
Fuck the Muppets.
And that's where all his problems really start. I don't care if his wife left him or I don't give a shit about Tiny Tim. Okay, that's not Scrooge's problem. His problem is that he wears a hat to bed. And that's why he's so pissed off all the time and that's why he's not going to pay Bob Cratchit the right amount of money. That's why he's not going to donate to his nephew's charity. That's
You know
he's
what?
not prioritizing.
You know, I think you're actually right. The whole time I thought it was about like, like how greed can corrupt the soul, and it's just like how our jobs can like distract us from what's like really important in the world. But it really has always been about the fucking hat. Like he's never wearing the hat when he does like the famous, it's like, oh, it's Christmas, I haven't missed it scene.
He's
He,
taken the hat off because he's
he's
gotten
taking the
out of
hat off.
bed, and that's why he's okay with Christmas now. Because this could have taken place any time of year. It could have been Christmas, could have been Hanukkah, could have been Kwanzaa, could have been winter solstice. It could have been Jesus's birthday. It doesn't matter as long as he's wearing that hat to bed. He's not going to get it,
Hmm.
and that's why I think Angry Dad deserved the Oscar that year.
Truly, like this is this has all been relevant discussion.
Yes.
Uh, I think that's it. Unless you have anything else you'd like to say about Christmas Carol or Saakashvili Spring or anything.
Um, no, I think we've covered all the main bases. I mean, th
Truly.
this was the watershed year for the Oscars. I mean, I know it caused lots of discourse, caused lots of discord, caused lots of Skype, but
Exactly.
I think now that the dust has settled, we're about a decade on from it. We can all agree everything happened the way it ought to have, and the influence, it's still being felt to this day. It's like an earthquake. You can still feel the vibrations all these years later, and I don't think it's going to stop. I think Simpson was a one-of-a-kind maverick, an auteur, and what else can you really say? He did it all.
I think I want to end this with one of my favorite Angry Dad quotes. Nuke the French.
Yes.
All right. And now that we've gone through and talked about the five nominees, it's time to reveal that, of course, this has all been one big April Fool's joke. The five films were
Ah!
all taken from season 22, episode 14 of The Simpsons, titled Angry Dad the Movie. So, to just wrap up this episode, we'll briefly talk about the episode itself. Noah, start us off. What do you think of the episode Angry Dad the Movie?
I mean, I was just rewatching it another time just before we did this. I think it holds up. I mean, if you're willing to get past the idea that like the Simpsons are now winning Oscars and stuff. I mean, let them do their wacky ideas every now and then. It's fine. I don't care when I've never been as bothered as other fans when they like kind of get out there and do crazier shit in the episodes. Overall, I think it's a pretty funny episode. The Ricky Gervais stuff drags on for way too long. I don't know why they just like had a bit where they let him improv because he's not funny, but
Hmm.
otherwise, I think it's a solid ep. Maybe I'm just kind of biased because, it plays to my personal interests, animation and all that, but I thought it was a nice one. Nice little Simpson.
Hmm. Exactly. Uh, so yeah, I'll just briefly explain like why I did this whole joke to begin with. It's just like so last I think October or September it was. It's like I started just wanting to rewatch like all the Simpsons episodes again. And it's just like, well, I didn't rewatch this episode. It's like while I was doing that watch, I was just like, wow, wasn't there an episode that Bart won Best Animated Short in? And I was just like, hey, wouldn't it be a funny idea if I covered that episode on this fucking podcast? And I thought, and I just connect the ideas. And it's just like, hey, let's make this an April Fool's joke. And who better to invite on than one of the biggest Simpsons fans I know, of course. You know,
Matt Groening. Oh,
I wish I could get Matt Groening. But anyway, um, but yeah, but on the episode itself, so of course I do enjoy the concept of it where it's just like Bart is in the award season, he wins a fucking Oscar for Best Animated Short. I think that's like the perfect amount of absurd for The Simpsons, where it's like it is an unreal situation, but it's so kind of unreal that it's just like you kind of go with it. Like I feel like it would be worse if it was like Lisa doing it. Yeah, because it's like that just feels like, oh, the smart Simpson is the one who like has the artistic intent. Like even though I do like the episode where she makes like the documentary and gets into Sundance and everything. Uh but for this one, the fact that it's Bart doing it, I think that adds a lot to the humor. It's like, and he seems genuinely excited about this. Like he's passionate about the movie he's making. He gets upset when the test screening doesn't go well. Oh, and then it's like he's so happy that he's getting all the attention, and then gets sad that Homer's stealing it all. It's just like I like this plot. I like the idea of it, but I think one of its faults is the fact that there is so much padding in this. And it's like some of it is good padding. Like I really like um the Itchy and Scratchy short that starts the episode out. I do think the different animation parodies are all really nice. I think my favorite one is Willis and Crumble. Well, I think that's just such a great bit, first of all, and I think the stop motion animation that they got for it is really good. I love the Nick Park cameo too. I think that's maybe the funniest part of the whole episode. I'm more clay than man now is such a great line. It, but and of course the other animation parodies are great too. But then it's just like when you have so many celebrity cameos or so many bits where it's just like the Simpsons are looking at a celebrity and watching them do stuff, or sometimes they're not even part of it. It's just like the Ricky Gervais stuff is the most egregious part, especially since not only is there just a random scene in the middle where it's just Ricky Gervais for no reason talking to this random fucking bartender or whatever. He also gets a bit in the credits where it's just him talking to Ridley Scott.
I think they should have cut the Gervais stuff and just given a bit more time to like Bart and Homer, sort of like the tension between them. I feel like that starts up a little too fast, but otherwise I think it's a nice little episode. I like that one thing I've noticed is that Lisa gets her love of music from Homer, who can play piano, write songs, play bass, harmonize in the B sharps and all that. Whereas Marge is a painter, so like Bart is good at visual art, which I kind of wish I explored a bit more because I like that little parallel dynamic.
Yeah, and it's just like, yeah, I do like when they allow Bart to be creative. Like not just like this episode, but I also love the episode where he's a drummer too. I
Yeah,
think
that's a good
that
one.
that's a really fun one. And but but yeah, this episode I do really like it, but as you also said, it's just like there's just some plot beats that just don't really go all the way in terms of like really getting that emotional core in there. And it's just like it it almost feels like that they just wanted to do these animation parodies and just like kind of built this plot around it. And especially like the beginning of it just feels so like rushed. It's just like Bart is just home alone. And then he's just like, I'm going to destroy the house. And then it's just like, gee, we need money. And this is all in like 2 minutes. And then all of a sudden, the guy comes in. It's just like, let's turn Angry Dad into a movie. Yeah, and then that's it. It's just so quick. We get into the animation scenes. Boom, 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 boom. It just all moves so quickly. And it's just like I want a little bit to stew here. Or I want a little bit to like actually feel like Bart's joy at finally getting this opportunity, or sit with I guess we do kind of sit with the disappointment at the test screening failing for a little bit. And then, but yeah, it's just a bit too quick. I wanted it to sit a little longer.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the sequence at the beginning. I think it's very quintessentially Bart like being destructive, but he's also like very creative about it. He's not just like destroying shit in the house because he can. He wants to like experience something new, but at the same time, I do think they probably should have just cut it from the episode. We don't need a reason the Simpsons need money. Like they're a working class family. Of course they need money. We all need money. I think it should have just started with, the guy coming in and saying all this stuff about how he owns the rights to Angry Dad now and wants to make a movie. Probably would have given the story a bit more breathing room and would have allowed like one or two extra scenes. They did
Mhm.
that.
Now, I'm just imagining an episode where it's just like it starts with the itchy and scratchy bit, and it's just like it's Lisa and Bart watching it, and then Bart's just kind of like, "Wow, itchy and scratchy is cool, so cool." It's just like hey, remember when I had like an animated series? Whatever happened to that? And then the knock on the door comes.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Hey, Bart, remember this animated series you had?
I also like that Anthony Hopkins apparently lives like across the street from The Simpsons now.
Yeah, he took George H.W. Bush's old house.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is a rich person house, so.
Damn you, damn you to hell! Yeah. And also, as we mentioned earlier, the turn it off is such a random fucking reference, but it's so funny. And it's especially funny that they do it twice.
The
It's like,
first time I saw the episode, I didn't even know that was a reference to something. Like, I think I might have assumed, but like watching it this time and actually knowing what it was like it felt rewarding.
yeah, it's like definitely like when I saw the episode as a kid, it's just like, oh, this is a funny bit. It's just like the guy is just mad, and then they bring it back, and it's like, oh, haha, set up payoff. But then realizing it's a reference to fucking hardcore and then watching hardcore and they fucking make a reference to it in this fucking Simpsons episode where Bart wins an Oscar. It's just like, why? But the randomness of it is part of why it's so funny.
I think those are like the best kind of jokes. And like, okay, The Simpsons isn't a kid show, but like you watch stuff like The Simpsons or Animaniacs or whatever when you were younger, and they have references to that kind of stuff where you have no idea what it is when you're a kid. and you're watching it the first time, but it's still the joke still works because it's just something absurd. And then you go back and watch it when you're a bit older and know what this stuff is, and it's just even funnier. I just love that kind of stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, overall, this is a fine Simpsons episode, fine modern
Yeah.
Simpsons episode. It's it's not, of course, it's not like classic Simpsons. It's not one of their best episodes, but it's a good time if you ignore the Ricky Gervais stuff.
If he wasn't in it, I probably would have like nothing to complain about.
Hmm. And it's like I even like I another joke I like is when there's fucking like I do enjoy some of the award show jokes that they make in there. And my favorite one is when they have fucking what is it, Ben Stiller and Jack Black up in the fucking air, just battling it with the lightsabers, and it's just like, and then of course George C. Scott comes in, and it's just like, I think it's a standard joke that's like a bit that goes on too long. It's like something that everybody knows about. It's a haha joke, and it's like I do like the little, also like when Bart like wins for Angry Dad, it shows them clapping when they're still fucking up there. It's just like it's not like the funniest bit ever, but it makes me laugh. It makes me giggle. I appreciate it.
Especially with like Oscar season coming up, this was probably a prime time to rewatch the episode. I think this like worked out nicely because when I was watching that, the Ben Stiller, Jack Black scene specifically, like you just know this year they're gonna have something like that for fucking Barbie Oppenheimer. So
Hmm. Yeah, just Jimmy Kim, like it's probably gonna be in the fucking opening monologue or whatever, or where it's just like Jimmy Kimmel, or like they're gonna seat like Greta Gerwig and Cillian Murphy right next to each other. It's like, oh, are they gonna fight? Ooh,
whoa.
and then they just camera points to them. It's just like, oh, ha 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 ha. They fake laugh, and then it's just like, okay. Anyway, wasn't Killers of the Flower Moon too long? That's it.
I think
That's
like I'm trying to think of like what the Oscars this year, what the bingo is gonna be like. There's gonna be a joke about Killers being too long. There's gonna be Barbie Oppenheimer. There's gonna be something about Oppenheimer being sexy.
I think there's gonna be something where it's just like they like Jimmy Kimmel, he's gonna try and make a joke about every Best Picture nominee, but then it's like when it comes to Zone of Interest, it's like, ugh, don't talk about that. That's serious.
At this point, don't joke about that. That serious is like the Barbie movie too. I feel like no matter what he says, people are gonna get mad at him.
Mhm. I think he's definitely gonna bring up like Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie not being nominated in the category, even though they are nominated for other categories. He's it's just like going to bring up this like going to try bring it up as like some offense or whatever. It's just like, hey, Academy, why didn't you nominate them as
You
you put
gotta
me on your stage?
you gotta be less sexist, Academy. This is coming from the guy who hosts the Man Show.
Yes. Hashtag Oscar so sexist.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. God. Uh, or maybe he will make a joke where it's just like Barbie got 8 nominations and somehow that was not enough.
Yeah, I can that's probably like he's gonna go the safe route with Barbie.
Yeah.
Especially after the other guy, Joe Coy, like none of his jokes were funny, but like I also think he has made like comedians too afraid to joke about Barbie or Taylor Swift at the Oscars.
Hmm. Oh yeah, it's like I wonder if he will even like I feel like he has to bring up Taylor Swift because everybody's t talking about her. But at the same time, it's just like why would they bring her up at the Oscars? It's like it's not even like Eras Tour was in recent memory enough for it to be like, oh, this should be nominated or whatever. But also it's just like everybody's talking about Taylor Swift, so you got to talk about Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I don't know. He'll probably mention her at some point, even though she has no reason to be mentioned. And then again, who knows? Oh, maybe he'll make a comparison between like Barbenheimer and then Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce or something.
Yeah, I can see him trying to do that.
God, fuck Jimmy Kimmel. I want to go
I
back to
wouldn't.
shut up. And also just going back into the episode that we just did. It's just like First of all, when I said fuck you after that, and you said, uh, I wish you would, it's just like that almost caught me off guard when I was about to go into my fucking monologue or whatever that was coming up with. And also, your name for your fake version of Winnie the Pooh is like, was it T Timmy the Dump or whatever?
I
That
was like,
I had to
while you
pull
were
away from the
talking, I was like
mic.
frantically trying to come. When you mentioned honey, I was like trying to frantically come up with like a Simpsons-esque Winnie the Pooh name.
Yeah, I was trying my best to come up with some parodies of like the early Wallace and Gromit shorts, but it's like I wanted to do that I before we got into this, but I forgot to. And so it was just like I was trying my best to first just to remember what a Grand Day Out was called, and then try to come up with a joke of it. But the best I could come up with was the wrong shirt.
I like the wrong shirt. I'm glad we're not like doing the video call because I was like genuinely laughing at that part. Whereas when it's just microphones, I can hide it better and not like fuck up the whole thing.
Yeah, there were several times where it was just like I was trying my best to hold in my laughter when I was like like pretending to be mad at you or whatever. It's like when you said who's Joseph Stalin or who's that? It's just like I never would have thought of that bit. It's just like I didn't
I was just doing the Norm Macdonald Hitler thing. I was trying to.
Joseph Stalin, the financier. Uh, but but yeah, this I so I did have a lot of fun with like the ones I did name. Like I was very proud of the loaf and death of Colonel Blimp.
That very much sounded like it could have been a real thing.
It's just like like a matter of loaf and death is like another like God, what are their names? Powell and Pressburger film or Life and Death. It's just like I just went to the other Powell and Pressburger film with Life and Death in that title and just like swapped it out. It's like I
There's
did have
lots
a
to unpack today.
yeah. There I did have a lot of fun just writing these fake stories, just trying to like come up with like both like what would a realistic story be, but then also just kind of like adding jokes to it in any way I can. I'm not a comedy writer or anything. This is just my best attempt.
No,
And
this was
it's
lots of fun to do.
yeah, like with the Willis and Crumble thing, just listing off Wallace and Gromit or Nardman films, and then just adding in terrorism into the plot. And then like the Mixar stuff is just like that's just what a standard like Pixar animator does after they get the Oscar nomination or win. They fucking leave immediately after and then go nowhere.
I'm
It's
trying.
just
Didn't like Brad Bird leave for a while, or am I making that up?
I don't know. But I'm just thinking about like the like John Cars for Paperman, the guy Patrick Osborne for Feast, um the guy who did Jerry's Game also did it, and it's just like all these different Disney and Pixar animators. It's like they get the Oscar winner nomination, leave immediately after, and then it's just like a list of credits that are like not popular or they're for Google, or it's just like there's these Netflix movies that don't get made. Hey, and it's just like, damn, rip to you. Who And then I briefly mentioned to you, but Saakashvili Spring, I was genuinely researching like Georgian history. Hey, like Salome Garibashvili are is like the first name and last name of two different current Georgian politicians. And it's like I feel so bad for like messing up so many of these names that I it's just like which I feel like kind of added to the joke in the moment, but I was genuinely just like I normally like look up how to pronounce names and like put in like the phonetic pronunciation into my script, but I forgot to do that this time, and so I was just scrambling in the moment, and I just felt bad.
Should have just like gotten like Siri to say it or something.
Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have prepped like the Google text to speech thing and just be like Saakashvili or whatever. It's just like, but yeah, it's just like the where is it? What's it called? Yeah, the Rose Revolution. That's a real event. And Edward Shevardnadze, that's a real person. Mikhail Saakashvili is a real person. And these are all real events that happened. And I'm just like putting the short film onto it. And it's just like, because like that's the closest thing I could have thought to like a real thing that this title was referencing. And it was just like, and then that's where the comparisons come in, where it's just like it's portraying this as if it was a violent thing, and it's like it's portraying the guy uh who like rigged the election as like the victim in all of this. It's just like I thought it was a good bit. I think that's the paragraph I'm most proud of.
That one like definitely feels like the most it could have been a real thing.
Hmm. And then just the Garibashvili just fucking disappearing. Who knows where she is?
Not my problem.
Not my fucking problem. Fuck the French.
Yeah.
And a lot of my hatred towards the French was just based in real life. A lot of it
That's
was
usually how it
exaggerated.
works.
It's like when The Simpsons makes jokes about the French.
So it's on brand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Uh, anyway, I think this is a good place to end. Uh,
All right.
but before we end our show, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Noah, or anything you'd like to promote?
I don't have any final thoughts. I got still working on the thesis film. I took a break from the last time we recorded. No, I was still working on it at that point, but the first time we recorded, I took a break. Then I was working on it again. Now I'm still working on it. I'm hoping to have it done at some point in the summer, but beyond that, I don't really have anything to pimp out.
Hmm. All right. Well, thank you, Noah, for coming on the show. And thank you, listener, for tuning in. This has been a short podcast about short films. Until next time, goodbye.